Good day everyone, and welcome to Primal Origins. In this series, we'll take a look at the stories of the many primals that inhabit the world of Allegan in their current apparition. We will also discuss and theorize on their origin and the myth that gave birth to these primals we know today. In this first episode, we will explore the interesting backstory of the Exile tribe and their primal, the Wind Incarnate, the Queen of Storms, the Lady of the Vortex, Garuda. The most recent incarnation of Garuda is depicted quite similarly to the Greek mythology's Harpy. She's a tall, slender woman, armed with taloned hands and feet. Her back is adorned with two pairs of razor-sharp wings, which seems to serve the dual purpose of being lethal weapons, as well as her way of maneuvering so effortlessly in the air. Although supremely elegant in both form and movement, this bloodthirsty deity and her merciless whims inspire fear even amongst her most devoted worshippers. Capricious in the extreme, the gentle breeze that surrounds her can sweep forth in tempestuous gale at the slightest provocation. Legend has it that the Burman of the Exile once lived on a floating continent known as Allegan, where they protected the furthest reaches of the heavens as Garuda's divine soldiers. A time came, however, when the evil that saturated the land below began to reach upwards and infect the skies above. Thence did Garuda order her minions to descend and cleanse the ground of this vile influence, bidding them to remain there as guardians that the heavens may never again be threatened. To this day, the Exile have dwelled upon the land, dreaming of an end to their sacred duty and a return to their lost paradise in the clouds. Time has not been kind to the beastmen, who found themselves pushed from the comfort of the Vilbrand forest to the cold of Korthus highlands. Believed to be a curse, the Exile could not fly back to the heavens since the feathers on their arms had fallen off. Their offspring suffered a similar fate, finding themselves unable to fly. Although the Exile turned to the creation of aircraft to regain a semblance of aerial mobility, many devoted themselves to Garuda. They prayed, hoping their goddess would give them with flight once more, as well as avenge them from the harms that came to them by the hands of land dwellers. These prayers, imbued with ether, became the Garuda we know today. Yet this form is but a twisted reflection of who she actually was. If we are to understand the true origins of Garuda, we need to take a look into the history of the Allegan Empire, more than 5,000 years ago on the floating continent of Azisla. Created as a forefront of Allegan science, Azisla was the main research facility in regard to the creation of automatons, chimerical life forms, and most importantly the binding of primals. Such a vast and crucial asset needed to be kept secret from the Eorzean Empire, who at the time fought to push back Alag's attempt of conquest. For such reason, Azisla had been designed with an energy field rendering the whole continent near impenetrable. Of course, workers were eventually needed, and thus, chimerical creation known as Exalians were engineered for maintenance and repair purposes. Those creatures were lizard-like in appearance, for the exception of large, winged arms that offered them the ability to fly. The Exalians' role shifted, however, when Emperor Zenda's tyrannical rule brought forth a massive uprising in the populace. Part of Alag's military was dispatched to Azisla to defend the important facility from rebel threat. It was then that a female Allegan general was tasked with training the Exalians for combat. Under her command, the Exalians were enrolled into the military's newly created Garuda Airborne Division. The Allegan general quickly earned the dread and admiration of her chimerical creatures, who came to accept the woman as their leader. The turmoil of the rebellion eventually reached its peak, and the armed populace made their way to Emperor Zenda's seat of power, the Crystal Tower. With extreme efficiency, the Allegan general dispatched the Garuda Airborne Division to deal with the air fleet of the rebel forces. While the Exalian troops swooped down from the heavens to deal with the incoming menace, the general stayed behind, making Azisla her command center. The fight was long and harsh, and both sides suffered massive amount of casualties. Alas, a group of rebels managed to reach the Crystal Tower, but not before Zende committed the ultimate transgression. Trying to harness all of Dalamud's energy to open a portal to the void, the Emperor accidentally caused a realm-wide chain of earthquakes. This was a calamity which marked the beginning of the Fourth Umbral Era and the end of the Allegan civilization. The Ixalians landed near Modona, contemplating the apocalyptic disaster that had just occurred. Many of them were injured and exhausted, which made the flight to Azisla impossible. So they did the logical thing and tended to their wounded. Perhaps realizing that the technology they cherished had ultimately proven their downfall, the few Allegan survivors that remained abandoned Azisla and activated its force field. Maybe a last act of preservation, hoping that such technology would never again be used in the way that it had. When the Ixalian survivors finally managed to fly to their homeland, they found it locked behind its invisible shield. They tried to call out to their general, pleading for her to lower the barrier, but she never answered. The Ixalians eventually abandoned hope and flew down toward the Villebran woods. This was an existential crisis for the chimerical creatures. Serving their masters was all they'd ever known, and without their leader to guide them, discord began to spread among their ranks. The Ixalian people were at each other's throat until one of them had an epiphany. Their general had given them clear directives to exterminate all rebel forces. Thus, did the Ixalian begin their manhunt, looking for any land dweller who could possibly be a survivor of the rebellion. Unbeknownst to the beastmen, however, their genetic code was flawed, making it susceptible to the harshness of the element, as well as being prompt to mutate. With the passing of millennia, the Ixalian began to degenerate. Their winged arms were now unable to lift them off the ground. The history became twisted by the constant word-to-mouth of generations, and the memory of the once proud Allegan general of the Garuda airborne division they served became an object of idolization for the lost beastmen. We do not know what happened to this nameless general. Whether she survived or died is left to speculation. All we know for certain is that the breeze of fervor she blew into the hearts of her troops has now grown into the howling storm of Ixal faith, immortalizing her as Garuda, Lady of the Vortex. Anyway, that is all for today, folks. Thank you all for watching. I would like you to write down in the comments which Primal you want me to cover up in my next episode, between Titan or Ifrit. On a final note, I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of Primal Origins. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel to be noticed when my next videos comes out. This is Tryce from Tryce Gaming, signing off.